This is Christine, and welcome to Sip, Talk, and Learn. As you can see, I have my dog Cappy joining us today. Cappy, say hi. Well, she's here, and I don't know for how long, so let's see how it goes. Well, today's conversation is about parenting. Parenting, as you know it, we are all broken creatures. None of us is perfect. So, as we enter the world of parenting, we find that our brokenness is comes out much more in the forefront than ever before. So today's discussion is really thought provoking. It requires an open mindset, a willingness to really examine yourself for who you truly are, and a willingness to take some steps in the areas that are showing up as weaknesses so that we can become better parents. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to grab yourself a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and join me here, and let's get started. Okay, guys, so when I became a parent, I was super excited to have children of my own because growing up, I loved kids so much. I found kids to be the only honest place that I could be in, the place where I could freely be who I was, and also they always welcomed me and they were always so forgiving and so loving. And so my love for kids really grew. I remember when we would have parties and I would have to take care of the younger kids that showed up, and those kids really just were so authentic in who they were, and they were non-judgmental, and they were just so loving. And so growing up, I had this desire. I even remember telling my mom this one time. I said, I'm going to have my children by 25. Okay, guys, I think Cappy wants to say goodbye. Say bye-bye. Okay. So Cappy, no, not Cappy. Okay, so I told my mom I'm gonna have my children by 25. I mean, when I was saying that, I really didn't expect it to come to life, but it really did come to life. I got my kids by the time I was 25, and when I got my children, I quickly realized that, hey, wait a minute, the best friends that I wanted to have in my kids required much more work than that. And so what happened is I grew up, and my parents grew up in a different generation. So the way I grew up, children were to be seen and not heard. So all my life I grew up really holding a back seat and really holding my opinions of things and everything, which was, looking back, not the healthiest way to live your life. But my parents were brought up that way. You don't blame them, because that's the best they knew how to raise their children too. They were just doing the best with what they had. And so as I grew up, I became very shy and introverted by nature, and I retrieved into my space of books and writing, and which, looking back, has been also the best gift that ever happened to me, because I really love to express myself in words, and words are so powerful, and if we use our words in the right way, then we develop even much more stronger, healthy relationships. And I've had a challenge with my own children in expressing myself as a parent and who I really want to be like. And so as a parent, no, let me say that again. As a parent, I realized at some point that my children were triggering areas in my life that were unresolved. And how did I realize those areas? It's because they continually were reoccurring over and over and over again. And before I knew it, I could no longer ignore those areas. And because if you're like me, I am a person who loves self growth. And so it's very natural for me, if an area of weakness keeps reoccurring in my life, then at some point I have to take a close look at that area. And when matters of the heart and emotional matters are the hardest and most challenging to deal with, because when I grew up, I loved kids and I always wanted to have kids, and just coming to the terms that I was not being the best parent that I could be, that I had more potential within me to be an even better parent, was a really hard thing to wrap my head around, because I wanted to ignore the areas of weakness and just really deal with it that way. So growing up in an environment where, and it's not necessarily my parents that really exerted this kind of parenting style. It's even other members of the community. In African culture, it takes a village to raise a kid. So you're not only being raised by your parents, you're being raised by your parents' aunts and uncles and other people in the community that have been entrusted to take good care of you. And so when you're growing up knowing very well that you are to be seen and not heard, then really parents and other people in authority have a controlling relationship with you where what they say is what you do, regardless of whether you want to do it or not. And so when I had my children, I realized that I was parenting in a controlling sort of way. My children were to do what I wanted them to do and how I wanted them to do it, and my opinions, if they differed from them, had to be in alignment with mine. So really what I was doing is creating this environment where I was the controlling factor and my kids were just followers coming along the journey with me. And what I said went, and what they said, if it wasn't in alignment with what I wanted to see, then too bad for that. And I could tell many times when I exerted that kind of control over my children, they expressed themselves very openly, and you could tell that they, kind of retrieved back and they had the sad little faces. And it took me, I want to say, a few years into the game of parenting to really realize that I was operating in a very controlling kind of way. And so the reason why I was operating in a controlling environment is because I came into parenting viewing children as they are, I am the teacher and they are my students. But can I tell you one thing? That my children have been my greatest teachers. There is no school that I've ever gone to that equates to parenting school. Parenting school is real life. There are no dress rehearsals for it. It just shows up and you have to deal with it. And I realized very quickly, after really looking at myself deeply, that my children were my greatest teacher. And the reason I realized that was when I really took a deep look at who I was and how I was parenting. My children were evoking emotions in me that were unresolved and that I needed to take a deep, close look at so that I could be a better parent. So when I realized that I was reacted to my children in a way that, maybe they did something or said something and my emotional reaction towards them was negative, I would go back and I would totally feel guilty for reacting that way. And then I would realize that my emotional reaction was displaced upon my children and that though that reaction really did not belong where I had dumped it. And my children were recipients to many displaced emotional reactions. And having knowledge of that was the beginning of change in my relationship with my children, because it allowed me to really openly and honestly look at myself for who I truly was and not have this false idea that I am the best parent and there's no room for improvement. That is a killer way of looking at life. Even in general, if you go to work and think that you are the best at what you do, you are going to miss out on opportunities to really grow yourself, because you're never going to be the best completely with 100% without areas of opportunity. And so right now, whenever I meet a new parent, even when my sister was having her baby, I told her, and I tell everyone this: your children are going to be your greatest teacher. No school out there will teach you as much as what your children will teach you. So in preparing for today's conversation, I approached my children, and I've approached them this on many other times with various other topics to better myself. But yesterday I approached them and I asked them, what are some of the characteristics you're looking for in a parent? what is really, really important to you in a parent. And this is what they had to say. My children value an encouraging parent. They value an easygoing parent. They also value a supportive and caring and loving parent. They also value a hardworking parent. They value an understanding parent. They value a smart parent. They value a responsible and respectful parent. And they also value um, no, I think that's it. Yeah, that was the list. And then what I asked them at the end of it, I asked them, do you also value a fun parent? A parent who loves to have fun? And their response was very surprising to me because I expected them to say yes. But their response was very eye-opening. They said, while it's a good quality to have, it's not as important to them. Because what is fundamentally important to them is a parent that is authentic with who they are. And if you're going to live an authentic life with your children, the areas that my children pointed out, supportive, encouraging, loving, caring, hardworking, understanding, smart, responsible, those areas are really fundamental to being a good parent. But guess what? As I went further in thought and in analyzing their list, I realized these are also the very areas that we as parents fail. How many times have you gone to your child and said, no matter what, I support you? That you should always feel free to come to me with anything. I will support you. And how many times has your child come to you and said, Mom, Dad, I want to take on ballet, or I want to do soccer next year. And you go, no, absolutely no. You need to focus on your education. You need to focus on this and that. You need to stay and you need to do cheerleading. Don't focus on that. Don't forget about all that stuff. And do you ever go back to the conversation you had with your child when you say, I support you with every decision that you make? Well, parenting brings all that to the forefront of life. If you really, really live a life of authenticity and a life where you're always trying to better yourself, you will realize that you have not always been as supportive as you say you would to your children. And so when we open up the door and tell our children, no matter what, I support you, no matter what, I love you, no matter what, I'm there for you. Well, we really, really, as parents, need to own that. When we are tested in those areas, because you will be tested, when you say you love your child, a situation will arise one day that will just make you push every bit of love out of you. And that unconditional love that you claimed and proclaimed for your child will be questioned at that moment. And so it's very important for us to live and parent in such a way that we are authentic to who we are and who we say we are to our children. To remember and examine ourselves. What did we promise our child? And we are going to fail, yes, but it's very important that when we tell our children that we love you regardless, that be the case. We support you regardless, that be the case. Because your children will come back to you and in those particular areas, and unknowingly your proclamation of support will be challenged. So how do you go and navigate parenting? Parenting is very tough. No one out there has written a book that has really, really blessed me, apart from this one book that I'm going to reveal to you. My most favorite book. Okay, so I'm going to put it. How? Okay, I don't know. Okay, it's not showing up right. Anyway, the book is called The Conscious Parent, and it's by Dr. Shefali Sabari. This book has changed my life. And when I say changed, I have no better word to describe the way this book has helped me. Dr. Shefali has described parenting in such a way that provokes your inner way of thinking and looking at your parenting style, and gives you an opportunity to examine yourself and make change in the areas of weakness. Now, let me just take you into the book just a little bit. And let me just read a little bit of what is in this beautiful book. And I'm gonna start with, okay, give me a minute. Okay, here we go. Page 3 of the Conscious Parent, conscious parent, it says, instead of meeting the individual needs of our children, we tend to project our own ideas and expectations onto them. Even when we have the best intentions of encouraging our children to be true to themselves, most of us unwittingly fall into the trap of imposing our agenda on them. Consequently, the parent child relationship frequently deadens a child's spirit instead of enlivening it. This is a key reason so many of our children grow up troubled and, in many cases, plagued by dysfunction. What a powerful statement that is. If we deeply look inside of each and every one of our heart as a parent, there has been many instances where we have exerted our expectations and ideas over to our children. We have made it so that our children live our life rather than their own life. We have created, in many ways, mini me's. How many of us do that unknowingly? And no parent goes into it and says, I'm going to create a mini me. But creating a mini me means that you're creating and parenting a child that is inauthentic to who they are. I'm learning as a parent, and these are all learning experiences. I never started out where I am right now. It's been a learning lesson for me, painful learning lessons. But I am learning that children need an environment to nurture their inner authentic geniuses. That God has created each and every one of us with our very own identity, our very own purpose. And so, what happens when we exert our opinions and our agendas onto our children, we are denying them and robbing them the opportunity to be their own, very own authentic self. And what does that look like when they grow up? They grow up being in a profession that really doesn't fit them because mommy said doctor, lawyer are the only professions that are meaningful in life. And so their children, out of respect for their own parents or out of fear for them, in many cases, they end up giving to their parents what their parents want them to give them. And so it's very important that we get away from creating or nurturing an environment that our children become our mini-me's, because that in essence means that our children will never live their authentic selves. And what happens in the future, many times our children actually end up resenting us for pushing them in a direction that they never were meant to be. So it's important for me as a mom to allow my children to become who they were created to be the particular identity that God created them to be. My job as a mom is to really parent in such a way that my children have the environment needed to be their own creative geniuses and to release that creative geniuses into the world, into the environment that God is going to call them to live in. And really my job is to nurture them and support them along the way. So when I think about parenting and aiming to be a better parent, I think about God and the kind of parent that He is to each and every one of us. God is such a gracious God, a very merciful God. He nurtures our relationship with each and every one of us where we are loved regardless of what we do. Where no matter the direction we take in life, He's ever present to be with us, whether we fail or we make it. And so that's the kind of relationship and nature and environment that I want to create as I parent my children, that whenever And every time in their life that they will always find a place that is free of judgment, free of control, a place where they can run to when the world is drowning them in sorrow. I want them, even when they grow up as an adult and things are really hard for them and it's challenging, that they can always know that there's a road that they can take, and that road leads to love, unconditional love. And that's how I look at it. I look at it as you taking a journey and you driving in these busy freeways, and along the way you get robbed, you get hurt, things happen. You lose your wallet, you lose your money, your friends turn on you. Things happen during that journey. And when you go through that, I look at myself and I think about this child that thinks about this one place. If I can only make it to this one place, I know everything, absolutely everything will be fine. And that one place should be my heart. I want my children to always run to me. Okay, this is making me cry. This is hard, I told you. It's gonna be a hard conversation. Whew. Okay. Yeah. I want my children to always run to me as that one place of refuge. First of all, I want them to run to God. No doubt about that. Yeah, God should always be that pivotal place that they go to, even before they run to mommy, huh? But I want them to always know that wherever mom is, that is where they will find peace and love and joy. And no matter what happens out there, whether they've made the biggest mistake, of whether their friends have turned on them, no matter what, that mom will never turn on them. Oh, guys, this is so hard. Okay, guys. Whew. Hallelujah. This is just hallelujah moments, huh? Okay. Tears be gone. Tears be gone, guys. Ah, this is powerful. Ooh, okay, I'm gonna get myself together, guys. You have any tissue for me? Any Kleenex, guys? Okay. So, when I think about my children, I think about I am the one person that God has decided I'm gonna gift you with a gift that is so precious to me. And my children are that gift from God. And I want them to always know that me, their mom, will always love them when the world doesn't love them. Will always be there for them when the world is not there for them. Even when they fail, even when they make the worst mistake of their life, that they can always find themselves home. I want to be the one road that when everything else is going wrong, they know that they can always go to this road that will lead them to a mom who has nothing but open arms ready to meet them, even at their lowest points. And as a parent, that's how God works with us, isn't He? Even when we have made the biggest mistakes, when we have just really messed up, He's ever present to pick us up. Think about the prodigal son. He went away, he got lost, he misused his money. And when he came back, the father threw a big party for him because he was back home. And guess what? When the prodigal son had nowhere to go and things were really, really hard on him, the one place he knew he would go to was his back home. And that's how I want my children. I want to have a relationship with my children, that my place, wherever it may be, home is what you call it. It's not really the house, the place that makes the home. It's the heart. So wherever I am, whether I'm in France, I'm in New York City, I'm in California, wherever I am, home will always be the place that leads my children back to me. They will always find that refuge. And so as a parent, what I have learned, it's so important. So important that we get pride out of the way. Pride kills all relationships, not only with our children, but with other people at work, with your spouse. It kills it. So get pride out and replace that with humility. And humility allows you the ability to really look into yourself and see the areas where you're falling short, and align yourself with great tools to get better. Pride closes the door to authenticity. So if you're parenting in a prideful way where you're always right and your children are always to listen to you whether they're right or wrong, then you're in essence closing any door of authenticity, closing any door of deep connection with your children. And when your children begin to find that connection with someone else, because I'm sorry, these are just residual effects from my tearing, okay? Okay, excuse me. So if you find that your children are finding that connection with someone else besides you, then it's really because you have let pride come into the way and you've not nurtured an environment of authenticity, because they will not have the freedom to then be who they really are and express their feelings to you in such a way that you will be receptive. And so when you have pride, it leads to control, and then control leads to fear. And who wants to parent in a fearful environment where your children are just fearful about you and what you're going to think about their opinions and everything? So you want to give them the freedom to express who they are, be who God created them to be, and you be the supporter. You be the shepherd who leads the sheep. And when you see how God is our biggest shepherd, He's leading you, but the sheep really have a freedom to take a different direction if they want to. So that's how you should lead. And as a shepherd, you kind of, have to do away with a lot of control. You only have minimal control, because if I want to take a different direction, I will speed and head for it. And you have to give yourself and the child the ability to head for that direction that they want to head to, even if it's a direction that you're not necessarily in support of. Because eventually they do come back home. They do come back home, and you want to make sure that when they ever need to come back home, that home is open for them. So when I became a parent, I really, 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 really wish someone had told me there's a call to action to parenting. Guys, there's a call to action. And for me, my call to action has been stop, listen, and examine. Stop, listen, and examine. I have to intentionally stop. And then I have to intentionally listen to my children. And then I have to intentionally examine myself, which is very critical, because if you don't stop to listen, that means your children will never have the opportunity to really tell you their true opinion of things. Because then, if you don't stop to listen, you're always just backing out orders. Do this, do that, and this is how you're doing it. Do this, do that, and this is how you're doing it. So you're never giving yourself or the child or any other person the ability to stop, for yourself to stop, listen, and examine yourself and learn out of it. It's so important for me. So that's my call to action as a parent, is stop, listen, and examine. Stop, listen, and examine. So talking about conscious parenting here, let me just read you something else that she writes. Okay. When we're talking about control, yeah, because many parents have started off parenting with somewhat of a controlling environment. You're just exerting every bit of control over your children, because you're thinking, hey, I'm here to teach you, you're not here to teach me, you're here to listen and learn. We've already examined that doesn't work, yeah? Okay. So Dr. Shefali says, growing up with explosive, pouting, no, that's not what I wanted to read. Let me read what exactly I wanted to read. This is page 62. Relinquishing control allows us to engage life from the standpoint of seeking to learn. Indeed, to respond to life in its as is form is how our greatest lessons are learned. The key is to start with what is, not what isn't. We respond to our children where they are rather than pushing them where we want them to be. So when I started this journey of self growth within my parenting, I I I took one big chance and say to my children, what are some of the areas that you'd love me to improve on as a parent? And the reason why I said I took one big risk is because children are brutally honest. And I knew they would give it to me without sugarcoating it. And that's what I really wanted. But was I ready? I was ready at that point. So they told me exactly what it is that they would like me to work on. And I told them that I would work on them. One of the areas that they mentioned was, stop yelling, Mom. I get it. I yell a lot. And my yelling, when I took a deeper look into myself, was out of frustration. And I had no way of I had no better way of expressing myself at that point because I was so frustrated that yelling I thought would be a way to control the environment and get them to listen to me. Well, that doesn't work. It really, really hurts their feelings and they don't like it when I yell. So I learned that. So I realized quickly that I really have to get a hold of this, the reason why I yell, and really work on being better at it. Being communicating in a much healthier way. So when I looked at myself, as I said, I realized that I yell because I'm losing control and I want them to listen to me. And so I had to really relinquish any control that I wanted to exert on them. And I made it a point to them and I told them, when I yell, please stop me. Tell me I'm yelling, Mom, you're yelling, okay? And so they would flag those instances to me, and the more they flagged them, the more I realized that. And as I worked on myself, I become less of a yeller. And when I yell, I actually go back and say I'm sorry. So another big key factor for me in parenting is the ability to apologize when we know we've gone wrong. When our children come and tell us that, really, Mom, what you said yesterday, it didn't come across right. I wish you said it in a better way. When they say things to you like that, you might not have been aware of it, but it's very important to then self-examine yourself and go back and apologize for hurting their feelings. That was never your intention, but you want to make them aware that you understand where they're coming from and that you are apologetic for having unintentionally hurt their feelings. So what is very critical to parenting for me, I've also learned, is remaining in the present. I have learned it's so important to parent in the present. And because if you parent when you're never paying attention to really what is happening, you're going to miss out on a lot of areas of your parenting style that you need to pay close attention to. And also to your children learn to see and view mom and dad as these people who, regardless of whether I have good news, they're not going to be 100% there because they're either on their cell phones or they're either on the phone or on the internet. And so we miss out on many occasional opportunities with many occasions where we need to be celebrating with our children, because guess what? So after some point, your child will be celebrating with her friends rather than you, because mom is never in the present. Dad is never in the present moment. So I made a very, very purposeful effort that when I am in the environment with my kids, like when we're doing homework, I'm not going to answer the phone or text or anything like that. I'm going to be in the moment. When my children tell me, hey mom, guess what? I know that's a flag for me to give them my 100% attention. So when they come to school and they come from school and they're like, oh mom, guess what happened? Oh my goodness. I know that's my time and my key to put down the book if I had a book, to put down the phone if I have a phone. On the phone, I always ask my kids to allow, if they find me having a conversation before they got there with the news they had, to allow me the time to finish up with that conversation. Then I'll be all ears for them. And so I've learned to nurture an environment to remain in the present with my children. And I already know the flags that they always throw out at me. So I know when my kids come back from school, oh my goodness, that's a sign. Okay? When they come to my room and they're like, hey mom, and I take a look at their face and, they want to say something very serious, that's a key to me to stop what I'm doing and remain in the present. And my children have really learned to appreciate that, because I used to come home, with my laptop and log in, and I've worked all day and I'm working all night, and my kids would come with all this news about what's happening, and I'll be like, yeah, oh, that's really good. Oh, so good, Maya. I'm so proud of you. But I'm really typing. And if you ask me what the heck they just said, I'm sorry to use the word, but if you ask me what they just said, I would have no clue. Because guess what? I was multitasking. And it's not really multitasking because I didn't pay attention to really what my daughter said. So I learned that my children appreciate me being in the present, and that because of that, I've had the opportunity to celebrate with them on many occasions, and also to comfort them on many occasions, because sometimes they just need to listen. Sometimes, as they get older, I'm learning that school is getting tougher for them. They're attached to friends, and their friend can hurt them, can say something to them, they can do something that hurt their friend. And so I'm learning that really, as they get older, my attention really needs to be present even much more. Otherwise, I'll miss out on all the flags that are out there. And then before you know it, my children have grown up and I have no idea who they are. So parenting really is like a graceful kind of way of exhibiting your authentic self, and allowing yourself and allowing your children to exhibit their authentic self. Parenting is a means to learn and grow. Parenting is an opportunity to work on unsolved areas of your childhood, because those areas never do go away. Yeah, there's a way we minimize them and suppress them. I'm sorry, you minimize them and suppress them, but when you become a parent, there's a way that the children bring those areas out into the forefront. And then if you're really looking to have an authentic relationship with your children, then really it forces you to work on those areas. So I know we've talked a lot. There's so much to parenting. It's always a journey, and it keeps getting better and better. But I also want to really stress on the importance of forgiveness in the parenting journey, because we're going to mess up so many times. It's so important that we forgive ourselves for the areas that we have fallen short, and that we allow ourselves an opportunity to make it better. So if you failed, like we all will at one point or another, then it's very important to come to yourself and forgive yourself and take the steps necessary to make it better. And that might look like, for you, asking your child to forgive you for what you might have said or done that might have hurt them. And also just forgiving yourself for sometimes, for the things that you unintentionally do that might, hurt your children. Like, for example, there are so many times that I'm working and I can't make it to my kids' school function for whatever reason, and I'm a single parent. I have no one else to, fill the other spot for me. And so I have to forgive myself for not being there. And I have to ask my children ahead of time, please forgive me for not being there. Mommy has to work. And I kind of balance the number of times I go and the number of times I stay back, because I cannot always, there's so many events that I have to just pick and choose which one is most critical for me to be there. So the very critical events, I'm present, but there are some times that work forces me to be away from that. And so I have to forgive myself for not being there. And also if you're parenting and your children have grown up and now they're adults, and now you look at yourself and you've realized that there are some areas that you wish you had done better as a parent, it's never too late to mend a broken relationship. It's never too late to make it better. If you still have a good relationship with your children, then that's a great opportunity for you to now nurture and guide them so that they don't make the same mistakes you made with their own children. And if you are alienated from your children for whatever reason, then this is a dare for you to go and look for your child and try and mend that relationship, because there's no better and greater relationship than a child and a parent. That is a gift that God has given us, and it's so important that we do our best with this gift, because at the end of it all, we'll be accountable to God for how we manage this special gift of our children to us. And so my challenge to you, if you haven't spoken to your child in years, or you really just have a disconnected relationship, my challenge and dare for you is to try and make it better. You never stop being a parent. So go back and search until, and never stop searching for your child, and never stop trying. I say it's better to try than to never have tried at all. I say it's better to die having tried than to die having never tried. So if that looks like you're going to try and try and try, eventually, if your child is, God will meet you somewhere, and soften your child's heart and just give them the opportunity to know you. So I really want to encourage us all to take this journey of parenting as a journey where we are growing, we are learning, and we're getting better at it. And I just want to close real quick with a reading from page 61 of Dr. Shefali's book. She says, since no other journey is able to evoke more emotional reactivity in us than parenting, to be a parent invites us to treat the reactions our children trigger in us as opportunities for spiritual growth. By bringing our emotional shadow into the spotlight as never before, parenting affords us a wonderful opportunity to tame our reactivity. Indeed, the parenting journey has the potential to be an especially regenerative experience for both parent and child, where every moment is a meeting of spirits, and both parent and child appreciate that each dances on a spiritual path that's unique, holding hands yet alone. Coming from this realization, we respond to each other creatively instead of reacting destructively. So powerful, and what better way to end today's session? It's a journey, and we're going to do more on parenting. This is not it. There's so much to talk about. How do we parent teenagers? How do we parent adults? How do we still remain a parent when our children have grown up and had kids? Because when we parent, our kids are growing, and over time we almost lose that what is it? We almost lose the influence we have over our children. How do we parent when now our children have their own opinions and have their own life, and we still want to remain an influential part of their lives, and yet not a controlling part, a controlling parent, but influential in some ways, remaining present in your child's life? How does it look like for your child to become an adult and still call and ask for guidance and all that good stuff? So we're going to talk about more of such topics in the future. I just wanted us to have almost what I call a beginning session of parenting, and what I have learned, and the mistakes that I have made and have grown, and hopefully that as we learn from one another. So please share your thoughts and insights on parenting and what you've learned, and areas of improvement that are taking place in your life right now. My hope is that we will all get better at being an authentic parent. And because we're all broken in one way or another, though we may never be 100% perfect, we will live a life that represents who truly we are and all the potentials that God put in each and every one of us. Because God put great potential to parent in you. It's just a matter of digging deep and finding those potentials, and now unleashing them in a very healthy way, and not a controlling way. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's conversation has been so thought-provoking, and I hope that as we live one another in this session, that it will evoke an inner conversation within yourself to self examine yourself and get better. I love you all and have a blessed day. Bye.